Hey everybody, it's Joe from Papa Jobo's. The other night at another self-aggrandizing award show where Hollywood elites hand out awards to one another and kiss each other's behinds, Kathleen Kennedy had this to say. In her acceptance speech for the award, Kathleen Kennedy, the company's president, noted she had met George and Stephen at the dawning of a new age for the industry. She added, "We worked side by side through one revolution in our industry after another. Revolutions not only in the means of movie making and in the ways movies reach audiences, but also in the composition of our business. As women, artists of color, LGBTQ, and differently labeled artists and producers, we have fought for and won a place at the table, propelling our community towards a more inclusive, diverse, richer, more sophisticated, and nuanced sense of our responsibilities for social and racial and economic justice. There's no one that I would rather share this moment with more than my friend, my mentor, and the greatest master Jedi of them all, George." And before we move forward, I want to be very clear about this, that this sort of thing, the inclusivity that she's talking about, was always a part of Star Wars. Always. So this has nothing to do with representing anybody. It has to do with an agenda and activism. Let's continue. Well, she may as well have just come out and said, "Hey, I'm a communist. Here we go." And for all intents and purposes, she is. The part that gets me is the part where she thanks George. This is important. I love George Lucas. I love that he created a movie and a franchise, a movie series and a franchise for me that literally helped save my life. Yeah, it really did. For a very dark period in my life, a couple years, I had Star Wars, and that was about it. And I loved it. I will always have a fondness for him in my heart. Always. He was wonderful at what he did, and I enjoyed almost everything he did. The problem here is this. She thanks George Lucas because he was the one that gave it to her. Under Kathleen Kennedy, we know exactly what we're getting. We're getting communism. You can call it SJWs, the woke mob, whatever you want, cultural Marxism. It's just communism. It's flat out communism. Go watch some of my other videos on it and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, the question is Kathleen Kennedy really dumb enough to be influenced by people who are in the realm of the useful idiots that we talk about? And my answer to that is no way. You don't get to where you're at and to be the most powerful woman in Hollywood. And make no mistakes about it. In my opinion, she is. You don't get into that position without being rather intelligent. And so when she comes out and says stuff like this, she's one of the people at the top tier, the upper echelons, spouting this nonsense. Why is she doing it? What does she have to gain? Well, it's obviously been lucrative for her. She's making a lot of money. But I believe wholeheartedly that in her heart and mind, she believes in this ideology to its core. And she's going to do whatever it takes to get it out there. Now, let's talk about George Lucas, the guy that was standing next to her. He gave her this. He handed the baton off to her. And I've not heard him say anything really overtly horrible about it. There's a couple things where he kind of takes some digs at the new Star Wars. That's fine. But he supports this woman. And he supported her when he handed it over to her. So he's partly to blame for this. Now, I also know about George's, some of his politics. He's a pretty, he's a left-leaning guy. The difference between him and her is he didn't bring it into his movies. He did start to allow it into his book series, though, during the later part of the 90s and the early 2000s. I did a video on that. You can check it out. But he did do that. And so it's my belief, and this is just a belief, my opinion, that he would have gone probably not as radical as Kennedy has gone, but in the same direction. I think he would have jumped on board with some of these identity politics because of who he is, what he believes, what his background is. You can go read about anything you want to about him online and about his politics. He's a pretty private guy, pretty quiet, but he does have some things out there that show, where he leans. I mean, first and foremost, he gave Star Wars to Disney, an ultra-progressive company that isn't really progressive anymore. They're just, part of the problem, the communist problem. And he handed it off to a protege who he had to have known believed these things. You're not around someone that long without knowing them. And you don't hand off your multi-billion-dollar company to someone without understanding who you're handing it to. And the fact that he's taking awards with her hand in hand, I mean, the guy still likes her. They're still pals. So let's be honest about it. But like I said, I don't think that he would have gone as far as her. I do think he would have jumped on board with identity politics, though. So I don't think we would have seen Han, Luke, and Leia die. And I think the story would have been infinitely better, without question, had he just kept the franchise, if he had chosen to do a trilogy. But we're left with what we have now. We have a lot of people out there who are black-pilled on this, completely apathetic to it, don't even want to acknowledge it anymore because they know that we're losing. I'm going to keep fighting back because I hope that I can get through to a lot of the normies out there. A lot of the people who just like to go to a movie and watch it for what it is. People who just want to take their family out and have a good time. However, when you're getting fed this sort of nonsense over and over and over, I don't know how you can have a really good time with it because more and more and more people are waking up to it. Like I've said in other videos, I've been saying this for years. In the beginning, a lot of people didn't believe me. Some people went as far as to say, man, you're kind of nutty. You know, nothing too bad back then because we hadn't started calling each other the most vicious, awful, vile names ever just because you don't agree with someone. But as time has progressed, here we are. Many years later, I'm talking decades in my case, I'm talking from the late 90s, early 2000s, that I started noticing this stuff. And here it is, coming to fruition. You can't deny it's there anymore. She just came out and said it. Hello, it's right there. So what do we do about it? I say, man, if you are a Star Wars fan, don't blackpill yourself. Please don't. We need your voice. We need to keep fighting back in some way. We need to try to get this out to normies. Hey, quit supporting this stuff because it is supporting a communist ideology. That's more important than the entertainment industry, flat out. Yeah. In the end, she's destroyed Star Wars. She's taken it in a total activist direction, and that's what we're left with. But I won't quit fighting it. I won't be blackpilled to this, at least not now. Thanks. I'm Papa Jobo. Peace.